Um, Funniest shit I've ever heard.
Hello. Hi. Now, I'm starting this off real quick. I don't dislike One Piece in the slightest, but I'm making this video because I'm sick and tired of one thing, and that is the possibly most overhyped One Piece character in all of existence. And that's Nami. Yep, that is Nami. Why am I saying that? Well, I'm gonna break it
How
down for
much
you folks.
hype does Nami even really get? Because because people like her, but I don't go on Twitter and hear people go like, "Yo, Nami so hype." It's mostly like Zoro or
Bridget.
something,
More
the
like
hype
Bridget.
people.
Just Bridget Love. All that type of shit.
Party hard, Nick, but it's just mostly like the fight people that people get hype over. So I don't really know what what hype he's talking about. No idea.
Well, we saw from Dritz.
I don't know if Drizzt speaks for the community, but he's the best fucking source I have since I do not keep my finger on the pulse of the One Piece community. So for all I know, maybe Tris is in the majority.
Folks, today, starting off with her. Her positive attributes are that she's really designed well and she gets a lot of screen time. But that leads into my next point, which is she gets
Does
an
screen
absurd
time mean good?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, is he trying to say that because she gets a lot of screen time, she is good? Wouldn't it be the other? Because like, if a character was bad and they got more screen time, that would be a bad thing. So right, but then if everything's subjective and that was just the answer to everything, we would talk about anything. I don't even think it's a subjective or objective thing. It straight up just does not make sense. Why is it a positive that she gets more screen time? That by itself isn't a positive thing.
I think he didn't have a second thing, so we went with like screen time.
Yeah, like if he thinks that she sucks, then why would more screen time be good?
amount of screen time for not really doing anything. Now, Nami gets a crazy amount of screen time, and she is basically marketed as one of the 3 most important characters in all of One Piece. This is alongside Zoro and Luffy. But when you look
That's
at
not even like true for real. It's usually the monster trio. It's not even true for real. Like even when they like go through all the Straw Hats in like an opening or something, whenever they're not going in order, they usually go, "Oh yeah, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. They're the 3 big ones." Because I can't think of a single example that's ever happened aside from times where they're really going in order, and so it would have to be Luffy, Zoro, Nami.
the 3 of them and compare them, you find that she has not contributed to the story, and the only thing that she really has contributed is one arc.
Yeah, there's not much to say there. It's just not correct. But hey, maybe he's gonna provide some examples in this meaty 13-minute video.
On top of that, her position on the crew as a navigator feels kind of redundant in a lot of situations. This is due to the fact that Oda will continuously hype up how dangerous the sea is and how easy it is to get lost. Well, then they have Nami get lost, or they have the Straw Hats wind up at a location completely by accident.
I think so. This is one of the classic examples of zero reading comprehension. I think when he hears navigation, he thinks that they're like on an island and they're like, we don't know how to get around this island. We need Nami. When they mean fucking shit navigation. maybe maybe he thinks that like because they're on the Grand Line, you have to use the log posts to get around. Like, oh, why do you need to navigate if it just points you in the right direction? When navigating is more than just going in a direction. Though granted, that's not the point he made, but he hasn't said anything yet. So I mean, he hasn't provided examples. He just says navigation is useless, but we don't even know what the hell he's talking about.
Nami get lost, or they have the Straw Hats wind up at a location completely by accident.
I think he's saying that. I think he's saying that should have happened to require the use of a navigator. Because his point right now is that Nami is useless because they don't need a navigator. Because, for example, they have not been in a situation where they were lost somewhere, which isn't technically true, but
lost. Well, then they have Nami get lost, or they have the Straw Hats wind up at a location completely by accident.
play the whole point again.
This is due to the fact that Oda will continuously hype up how dangerous the sea is and how easy it is to get lost. Well, then they have Nami get lost, or they have the Straw Hats wind up at a location completely by accident. For example,
Okay, never mind then.
they set a course to Fishman Island in pre-time skip. Then, instead of actually arriving there, they stumbled upon Thriller Bark.
What?
No, so he's trying to say something. No, no, now I'm confident. He's saying what I was saying before, that he thinks that they should have gotten lost, that they should have been trying to go somewhere and ended up somewhere else. Well, I mean, yeah, because not a thing that happens. He's just giving an example of what he thinks should have happened. Because the only other interpretation of this is that he was reading One Piece of the Dice Closed and thinks that they got to Thor Bark while trying to go to Fishman Island. And like, so far this guy isn't intelligent, but I don't know about that stupid. I don't think so. And he's trying to say that they should have gotten lost. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that there should have been a situation where Nami got lost, or that the crew got lost. You think it's more likely that he just forgot everything that happened in One Piece and thought they were trying to get to Fishman Island and ended up at Thriller Bark? And but how could you possibly have forgotten that? Because it's not a thing that happens, even kind of. That's just a stupid comparison. But this is legitimately making up things that simply did not happen and didn't even kind of sort of happen. That's like if someone forgot that Ace was Luffy's brother. It's just not. It's just not something you forget.
On top of that, her position on the crew as a navigator feels kind of redundant in a lot of situations. This is due to the fact that Oda will continuously hype up how dangerous the sea is and how easy it is to get lost. Well, then they have Nami get lost, or they have the Straw Hats wind up at a location completely by accident.
Yeah, there's no segue into a what if.
I mean, not everyone starts segues like what if. He's the way it's not flaws. Clause is like, Oda will hype up how easy it is to get lost in the Grand Line. Well, then they should have a situation, or then have a situation where Nami gets lost, and people just cut out the words because the alternative just does not make any
Terrible at
sense.
editing.
It's not an editing thing; it's the way people talk.
Talking.
Because I know what it sounds like, but the alternative, it's not even likely. because it's like forgetting that Ace is Luffy's brother. How do you how does that mistake happen? Or that he's presenting a hypothetical and just worded it poorly.
For example, they set a course to Fishman Island in pre-time skip. Then, instead of actually arriving there, they stumbled upon Thriller Bark. Now, that kind of makes no sense because Nami is a navigator, and you see continuous examples of this where it's more of, oh, at the end of the arc, Luffy says Nami set a course for blank, and then that happens. Now, this isn't me saying that
As far as I remember, it's never happened. Luffy's never been like, oh yeah, Nami put us put us there.
Well, he did when if it's dangerous.
and then that happens. Now, this isn't me saying that I would prefer her to be completely removed from the story. However, it does feel like she contributes less to the plot proportional to her screen time, which is something that the other Straw Hats do not have, except for maybe Frankie. Now, see, Sanji received an entire arc about him. So did Nami, so that point should make it irrelevant. Oh wait, I forgot. Nami also received character development, and that's in air quotes, during these arcs, including on Wano, where she can be seen doing the most basic shit, and it being praised as some big character moment. I have seen people
And also, in what universe is that like basic? How many times has the situation presented itself in One Piece? The answer, not often, if
I'd like to
ever.
know what he's basing it on.
And also, don't forget, he's not just talking about Wano. He's also talking about Arlong. And again, what basic thing that not did Nami do in Arlong work that was like, oh yeah, that's not character development. I love examples, but
praised as some big
he hasn't given one. Well, does that even count as an example if it didn't happen?
the most basic shit and it being praised as some big character moment. I have seen people, particularly YouTubers, and for an example, Grand Line Review, he praised Oda for having this small character arc for Nami, which was her yelling at Kaido, going, "Luffy's not dead." That is the extent of her character arc. This arc. And what did she
I
need to do
wonder
that?
if he actually thinks that that's the extent of Nami's character arc, or if he's only saying that because he saw a Grand Line say that, and he's like, "Wait, that's her only character arc? That's stupid." Can't confidently say he did.
Oh, just, I don't know, a couple hundred chapters to stand up to a Yonko, which is something that Frankie, Zoro, Sanji, Chopper, Brook, they all beat her to it.
So because they did it first, now it's it doesn't count. So why does it count when Frankie did it? Someone did it before him. Who was the person? Who was the first person? Who was the second person he named? Well, why does it matter when Brook did it? Someone did it before him. I mean, yeah, the point itself is stupid, but even then, it doesn't hold up to his own scrutiny. Because like he's saying, oh yeah, these people did it before her, so it's like, so do those people matter? Does those people doing it matter, or because the first person did it, now none of them matter, or singling out none because that's what the video is about? Question mark. Yeah, maybe.
To stand up to a Yonko, which is something that Frankie, Zoro, Sanji, Chopper, Brook, they all beat her to it. On top of that, the Toby Roppo were completely and utterly destroyed by Big Mom, Page 1, and Ulti. They were not beat by Nami and Usopp. Not even close. It may have been.
Eh, and it's the fight monkey perspective. They didn't beat them, therefore they suck. Uh, it, it's the fight monkey perspective. They need to beat them to be important. That in and of itself is supposed to be what's wrong with it. But Zoro wasn't fighting Black Maria. Are you talking? Are you talking about Sanji? Okay, who said Zoro? But, yeah. But that doesn't count because Sanji he was never even gonna fight Blackbeard because he doesn't have a limit. But Nami and Usopp are trying to beat Page One and Ulti, so that's why that's a fight.
They were not beat by Nami and Usopp. Not even close. It may have been an actual fight, but that's not the way it was written. And then her bounty still skyrocketed, so it seems like she's being rewarded for literally doing
Yeah,
bounty still skyrocketed, so it seems like she's being rewarded for literally doing almost nothing, and it feels like that for almost the entire journey. Now, the other point is, well, her comedy. Her comedy is downright mean. Like, I'm sorry, but this is not necessarily humor that is for everyone. I am not one of those people. I do not find it funny when the main character gets hit by the main female chick. That is not something that is very interesting, nor is it very funny on multiple repeats. And you find that Nami's humor is repeatedly shown to be this. She is an angry, self absorbed, and downright despicable person in certain times. And while she does have her positive character traits, those primarily chalk up to design and few and far moments within the story where she is being nice.
uh, that's not even that's not even true for real. outside of like, well, yeah, past Arlong is I feel like Nami's more nice than she is mean. If anything, I'd say the only times Nami's being mean is with the hitting people gag, which I guess is probably statistically the one she has the most. But even then, what's it? She has other jokes. I guess they're just not as prominent. One of the best Nami interactions is when is like it's right after Arlong, fucking when they're in Lowtown and Nami lends Zoro money and she's like, well, you wouldn't wanna have be a man with debts, would you? And Zoro's like, I guess not. It's just a funny little scene. Which yeah, I wouldn't even bring up the comedy thing if anything, but then he went straight into like, oh yeah, there's very few moments in the story where she's being nice, and that's just not even true. It sounds like he's basing that entirely on the gag.
However, she does treat kids nicely, which, is obviously a good thing, but not necessarily something that is really some thing that can necessarily be put as a
Oh
positive,
my
because
god,
so
stripper
does Robin.
videos. Fucking goddamn. That moment pained me when no rocks. When he sits there and goes for like 2 seconds straight. Fucking goddamn.
Not necessarily something that is really some thing that can necessarily be put as a positive, because so does Robin. That's another thing. Because so does Robin. That's another thing. Nami feels completely irrelevant compared to Robin. She has received, I want to say, maybe 8 times the panels that Robin has, considering every panel or page that Robin is in, Nami is also on that stupid page. We all know this. And yet, for some reason, Robin is a fully fleshed out and bite-sized character, whereas Nami
No idea. I got nothing.
and bite-sized character, whereas Nami, for some reason, is a full course meal that doesn't necessarily taste as good. It is
What the fuck is he talking about? I think he's trying. Yeah.
meal that doesn't necessarily taste as good. It is a dilemma that makes no sense. And finally, my final point is the downright obsession that the One Piece community has with this chick. Oh my goodness. She is the undisputed most popular female in One Piece. It is not a contest. She is by far the most voted, the most liked. When popularity polls come in, it's normally Nami is at least within the top 4. Now, is a character being popular a bad thing? No. But we seemingly find ourselves in another.
Well, not really. She's one of the first three, but I don't know if she's one of the big three. That's usually the monster trio. In terms of what? Because in marketing, it's usually most of the straw hats, and even then, is it usually Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. In terms of the story, it's definitely not Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. What big three are you talking about then? Yeah, yeah. How are you calculating I have relevance? Because then what is it? Luffy, Robin, Nami? Is that what you're saying? My Sanji over Zoro. Zoro's the co-captain, or not co-captain. First mate. That's what it's called. Or vice captain, yeah, whatever. Whenever Luffy's not the boss, it's Zoro or Nami. So that I don't really get your relevance point because that's hard to calculate. Yeah,
Being popular a bad thing? No. But we seemingly find ourselves in another situation which is just like My Hero Academia. And considering One Piece fans typically do not like their prized baby being compared to My Hero Academia, I suggest you take this with a pinch of salt. Katsuki to My Hero Academia, I suggest you take this with a pinch of salt. Katsuki Bakugo is ridiculously popular and the #1 voted character. However, he is also a mean and downright despicable person at times. Now, one of the things that people do not seem to understand is that just because you are nice on occasion doesn't mean that you are nice all the time. Now, this can obviously lead to people snapping, and a good writer will often have those moments be extremely tense and make sure that everyone understands that this is a exception rather than the norm. For example, Usopp, when he abandoned
And this
or when
motherfucker
he
get to the
challenged
point already. Bro done. It's not even just the way he speaks. Fucking bro brought up My Hero and is like, okay, so Katsuki Bakugo is da 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 da. Get to the comparison already. But but the original point was, oh, popularity doesn't really mean that a character's bad. So like, what's my issue? And then he brought up My Hero and what is the point? What is the point he's trying to get to?
Now, this can obviously lead to people snapping, and a good times. However, Katsuki Bakugo is ridiculously popular and the #1 voted character. However, he is also a mean and downright despicable person at times. Now, one of the things that people do not seem to understand is that just because you are nice on occasion doesn't mean that you are nice all the time. Now, this can obviously lead to people snapping, and a good writer will often have those moments be extremely tense and make sure that everyone understands.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know where the fuck he's trying to go.
That this is a exception rather than the norm. For example, Usopp, when he when he challenged Luffy, this was clearly made to be something that was out of the ordinary and treated with a lot of seriousness and overall consistency whenever a character leaves the crew. Even Nami in Arlong Park received the same treatment where leaving the crew is considered a big deal. Now, I brought up Arlong Park, so that's a good transition to where her past. Her past
I got nothing.
that's a good transition to where her past. Her past does make her a much more developed character, however, it also muddies her downright abusive nature towards the Straw Hats. These are the people who saved her life, and she repeatedly hits them. The Straw Hats. These are the people who saved her life, and she repeatedly hits them to an extent that is just not funny anymore. I'm sorry, but this joke has literally been happening since the first volume.
He swore.
It is stupid, and I am sick and tired of this. For 20 years, over 1,000 chapters, she has been hitting these characters, sometimes for no reason, sometimes it's a valid reason. The most recent example in 1058, she hits Luffy on the head because he sailed off. There was no damage to the ship, or barely any that Frankie wouldn't fix, and she locked him up in a cage.
So, if I remember correctly, the thing is that Luffy, everyone was like gearing up to have their big happy goodbyes to Wano. Luffy was like, "Yeah, let's go," and then Nami was mad at him because she didn't say that anyone. I think so. The TLDR is that it wasn't no reason, so no idea what he's talking about.
Now, this has already been explained that Luffy is a pretty chill captain, but it's still annoying. What does Oda like to do? He likes to have his gags. But there is a difference between having a gag and having the same joke for over 1,000 chapters to an extent where it is more consistent that there will be a joke than it is for Shanks to appear in the actual manga. Nami has
Yeah, he's looked this game.
joke than it is for Shanks to appear in the actual manga. Nami has hit Luffy on the head more often than Shanks has actually walked on screen. It is unbelievably ridiculous. I think I can find more pages of Nami hitting Luffy
Man needs
than I
to step
can.
away from the mic. I just keep hearing his like. No.
For the entirety of Long Ring Longland. That's how many times she entirety of Long Ring Longland. That's how many times she hits him. It is unbelievably insane. And a joke that gets extremely old. This is Sanji's nosebleed syndrome, but to an exaggerated extent. This has been completely and utterly prominent throughout the time skip, especially where the character development has taken a back seat compared to the general scouting and overall overthrowment of the emperors. And with the becoming of the emperors, it just shows that her and Usopp do pretty much nothing on the crew, but yet receive
Did his music just loop when he didn't correct it?
Yeah. Break song.
and Usopp do pretty much nothing on the crew, but yet receive ample praise and are continually rewarded by the author and by the staff he works with. Now, looking at all of this, it does sound like a lot of complaining, and this is supposed to be objective. Well, objectively, she has a great design, but there is not much beyond that. She is still a downright mean person who receives nothing but praise and admiration from the entire crew that works on the show and the manga. Have you ever noticed that every single filler arc needs to give Nami a little extra development? You know, it was the two exceptions, which were for One Piece Stampede and for One Piece Film Red. a little extra development, you know what was the two exceptions, which were for One Piece Stampede and for One Piece Film Red. They involved Luffy. Keyword being Luffy, the main character. But no, we need to once again take away the spotlight in order to focus on Nami. That is a repeated occurrence, especially during filler arcs. Nami is by far the most focused on character in all of One Piece, but yet has done not nearly enough. Luffy is considered a flat character, but then again, so is Nami. But Nami has the illusion of going through character arcs and character changes. She has the illusion of becoming better, the illusion of changing and bettering herself. But it continuously never turns fruit. She continues to plant trees, but they never bear fruit. It is insane, and honestly, it is getting very tiring. And with that, I am giving Nami, as a character overall, a 5 out of 10. She is passable, but there are so many major problems, and she is nowhere near the same level as Brook, Frankie, Robin, Chopper, Zoro, Sanji, or Luffy. She is by far the worst Straw Hat. However, I am willing to change my opinion if a valid reason is provided. So, if you have a valid reason, please put that in the comments section. I would like to hear your opinion. I will make sure to read every single one of these, as this is obviously a very controversial video, and with that being said, I would like to thank everyone for sitting through this video. Have a fantastic day.
I'm actually gonna leave a comment about. I'm gonna leave a comment about the Thor dark point because I want to know from straight from his mouth whether that was supposed to be uh him giving an example, or like him, if it's supposed to be an example or a hypothetical, because I generally don't know how he came up with that. Uh, is the video? Hmm. Did you? Is this video linked to the Beatles chat? Okay.
Most important characters in all of One Piece. This is alongside Zoro and Luffy. And Nami. On that, Oda will continuously hype up how dangerous the sea feels. On top of that, her position on the crew as a navigator feels kind of redundant in a lot of situations. This is due to the fact that Oda will continuously hype up how dangerous the sea is and how easy it is to get lost. Well, then they have Nami get lost, or they have the Straw Hats wind up at a location completely by accident. For example, they set a course to Fishman Island in pre-time skip. Then, instead of actually arriving there, they stumbled upon Thriller Bark.
I, I see what you're saying, but I generally it's hard to tell if he's if he's trying to say this actually happened or if he's trying to providing a hypothetical. Be- because them trying to go to Fishman Island and ending up in Thriller Bark is not a thing that happened even a little bit. And so, what's it? The way he's presenting it is that he's saying that Nami's position currently in the story is redundant because they don't need a navigator because there has never been a situation where they get lost. So he's trying to say that in a good story, or that in a version of One Piece where she is not redundant, then they would have, while going to Fishman Island, gotten lost and end up at Thriller Bark somehow. Because the reason I'm connecting these two is because the redundancy point has no ending if this isn't a hypothetical. Or if he's because otherwise then he'd just be saying she's redundant and then moving on. Which is possible, I guess, but that's why that's why I'm going to make a comment about it. But they weren't even trying to go to Fishman Island when they got to Thriller Bark. Yeah, I guess Fishman Island was in their plans, but did they ever even mention Fishman Island before Sabaody? I try to look for like a first mentioned thing because that's usually the thing that happens. Okay, well, it was first mentioned back in Arlong Park, but that's obviously not what we're talking about. Hmm. Would they have said it after Water 7, maybe? All right, let me see. $374, so they might have to. I'm just going through the manga. Yeah, he lost the moment.
Have you ever
I'm not gonna have enough time. I gotta be gone by 9. Unless you can find a 2-minute video that we can cover. I'm reading through these fucking chapters looking for if they mention Krishna Island, and if I
I've
get to
recently
Thor Bark and I can't, if I get to Thor Bark and I can't find it, then
I think I'll get ready for bed.
already, where the fuck do you live? It's like 9 p.m. Which is like 9 p.m.
See you guys.
And, I'm going through these chapters. The end of Envy's Lobby is way longer than I remember. There's a lot of stuff happening. Yeah, the Envy's Lobby Water 7. Most people just call it. Okay, so if the only they definitely didn't mention on the ocean because like the very next thing that happens is they find the barrel for Thriller Bark. So if they did mention it, it might have been back before I started looking through chapters, but I don't know. So I don't think they mentioned Fishman Island, but I also didn't check like every single chapter at the end of Maze Lobby, so maybe it just didn't look hard enough. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll see you later.